All right, let's get our other Facebook groups in here before it's time to start the show. Got the spinning wheels going. We got an error on one. Let's try one more time. Let's see if there we go. All right, second time's the charm there. Welcome in. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, the 12th of September, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, on these Broncos morning shows. How you doing, Scott? What's good? What's new?
I'm good. Whenever you start saying like it's time to start the show, the Muppets theme comes into my head. You're too young to have ever watched the Muppets, but I'm sure you've seen YouTube
I
videos
watched
of
the
the Muppets.
Muppets.
Stuff. It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights.
Yeah, absolutely. We were thinking
So,
about it if the
well, come
Broncos
in,
season.
y'all. We're feeling good today. I hope y'all are feeling well. How we feeling, Broncos country? A day under our belts, a full week of chaos in the NFL. How we feeling today?
I'm feeling okay, and I think if the season goes any off the rails like last season, maybe we should implement our own Muppets into the show. Like that'd be. No, yeah, I definitely watched the Muppets. Like a lot of the Christmas specials growing up. My dad was a big, huge John Denver guy, so the John Denver Muppets Christmas special was pretty constant in my house growing up. But yeah, no, feeling good. Hope everybody's had a good weekend. Other than the Broncos scoring, hey guys, the AFC is still wide open. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers lose, you had the Cincinnati Bengals lose, the New England Patriots lose, the Kansas City Chiefs lose, the Los Angeles Chargers lose, the Buffalo Bills lose, the Los Angeles Chargers lose. All these favorites for the AFC, So we're right in the thick of things, right? One weekend, anything can happen. A lot of season to go, but a pretty chaotic first week. And Scott, I know it's not Broncos related, but I think we got to talk about it to start. I am not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, but God, man, that just sucks so bad for the league and for Jets fans and just the storyline of it all. I mean, that's a Super Bowl roster. I mean, we talked about it a lot. I was like hyping like the Jets defense could be the best in the league. I said maybe Dallas, who looked even better, but the Jets defense is incredible. Garrett Wilson looks unbelievable. Brees Hall. Aaron Rodgers goes down there back to Zach Wilson now. I don't even know what to say about them.
It sucks. And that's exactly what Robert Saleh said when he asked. It sucks. That part of it sucks. I said this triggered a bunch of Kansas City Chiefs fans unintentionally because I was actually giving them some sympathy about it. But I feel like it's kind of like the Super Bowl, when the thing ended on a holding penalty. I feel cheated as a fan. I feel cheated. Of course, I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, especially if it's an Achilles, which I don't know if it's officially come out, but that could be a career ender for a guy that's pushing 40 years old. I was like, when he got rolled up, I was like, okay, ankle, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll see him. And then I hear Achilles. I'm like, 40-year-old Achilles. I mean, I know it's his arm, but he's still a mobile guy, and he's a thrower, not necessarily the runner that he used to be. But that's a year. I mean, we know what Achilles are like trying to come back from. That's a year, and how much is he going to want to fight back through that, or just kind of ease off into retirement? It's tough. So it sucks. It sucks for him, and it is Broncos related. They're going to visit the Chiefs. The Jets are going to visit the Broncos, and that was going to be a highlight game. I think that's week 5. Everybody kind of circled on the calendar, and it takes a lot of it. There's still going to be the Hackett angle there, but it's not the same. Hackett's not on the field. Yeah. It's not the same as when Aaron Rodgers gets involved, running his mouth. And I mean that positively. I like Aaron Rodgers personally. I think he's good for the league. He's been a great football player, and it sucks.
Yeah, it really does suck. We'll see if it's the end of his career. I mean, Achilles at, what is he, 40 years old, as you mentioned. There's a lot of talk that he maybe was going to retire prior to that trade with the Jets. I don't know how much of that was trying to get his way out of Green Bay there at the end, but stinks for the league. The real life implications is that the Broncos' pathway to another victory just got significantly easier, not only because they played the Jets and Zach Wilson just is a deer in headlights out there sometimes. I mean, you see the arm talent and the athleticism, but the processing and the decision making is just, I don't know if it's quarterbacking. And also, you have one less team that probably is in the way for the chance for a wild card. That being said, that Jets defense is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anything can happen there, but without Rodgers, they're significantly.
They can win a bunch of ugly ones. Zach Wilson is such an anomaly to me. I honestly, I cannot remember watching a quarterback where the more time you give him, the worse he gets. You know, and that's the thing. It's like if he's on the move, you worry a little bit. I'm like, okay, you know, he doesn't have to think, he just has to react. And my God, he's physically talented. He can move, he's got a cannon for an arm. Like maybe he should have been a pitcher. Because the processing and the seeing the field and the read to read it's as bad as I've ever seen. Honestly, Nick, it's as bad as I've ever seen at this level. And we'll see if it improves, but that worries me greatly for, you know, his long term. And we said it year one.
Yeah.
You know, you usually want to pressure a rookie quarterback, not him. Man, let him sit back there and throw the ball. You want him to put the ball in the air. I don't want him on the run. I don't want him improvising. That's when he's dangerous. That's when he gets out of his head and that big old arm of his takes over. But it's he's an anomaly to me, Nick.
Yeah, he is a odd player for sure, and we'll see how it all plays out for the Jets this year. The other implication NFL-wise is that Rodgers had to play 60% of the snaps for that 2024 first-round pick to be a first. If not, it's a second. So probably a second-round pick going to the Packers in that Aaron Rodgers trade. We'll see if he's out, actually, with the Achilles. But that does sound like what's going to happen here. And today's going to be an injury-related show. Unfortunately, the Broncos are already in their bag, I guess, so to speak, with the injuries. But we want to say hello to some people in here before we start getting into the main topics of the show. And if you have any comments or anything for us, hit us up. We'll love to talk about the Broncos game. Raiders game still fresh. And we'll probably start to move on Thursday when we're looking ahead to the Washington Commanders. Sean Burns comes in and says, good morning. Good morning to you, Sean. Hope you're doing well. We got Troy Bauer coming in here, $19.99. Thank you so much for the big super chat, Troy. I feel like you're typically a $9.99 guy, so this $19.99 is coming in, doubling it. I love it. Says, hey guys, back from a trip. Well, hope you had a good trip. Do you think our pass rush was stop the run first, which explains lack of pressure, which in turn hurt Mathis? I'm encouraged by the offense and Russ, but I'm worried about safety now. I think that the run stopping was definitely the first plan for them, and you kind of heard it from Sean Payton talking about it yesterday when they said that Jimmy Garoppolo gets it out fast. Josh McDaniels plans routes, whatever, to get guys open quickly too, which can help nullify pass rush. I mean, we saw it for years in Denver with Peyton. If you have a quick pass game that's efficient, you can nullify great pass rushers. But even still, there's chances to get after the quarterback, and there are plenty of one-on-ones where Broncos pass rushers simply didn't win their matchups. So I think that it's a little bit of both here, but I think you still should be worried about the pass rush long term.
Absolutely. You should. You need Baron Browning back. That's another athletic body out there that can help. You know, Jonathan Cooper, we can praise him for, you know, who he is, but he is who he is, and he was a 7th round draft pick. He's better than that. He's obviously proven that. But is he going to become a dominant force in the pass rush? No, but what he can do if you start stacking these guys is it makes it easier to get a rush in the second half. If you've got fresh legs out there and you're not counting on one guy, the one that absolutely has to step up, has to in the pass rush is Randy Gregory. The guy finished with an assist, and he was taking pass rush reps against the backup right tackle for the Raiders. It's got to be better than that, man. You know, the odds of him being a Denver Bronco this time next year are hovering around 1% for me.
Yeah.
You know, you can restructure a contract, whatever, but right now he's a cut candidate the way he's playing right now. Long season, I know. So let's come back to this. And, you know, when he has 15 sacks at the end of the season, and we can use freezing hot takes. I've got one of those, by the way. We can talk about that later, Nick, that week one I was so far wrong on that it's not even funny. You probably can even think of that. We'll hit on that later. But Randy Gregory's got to get better. And you asked, did they Troy, appreciate you, of course. He says, do you think our pass rush was told to stop the run first? I think the defense was told not to give up the big play. They played a total bend but don't break. And then they did the same on the other side of the ball. So that's why there was, you know, a half a dozen possessions. I think I said with 5 minutes left in the first half, each team had 2 possessions, and it was 10-6 at the time. It was kind of suffer ball, so to speak. So there were no big plays on either side of the ball for the most part, and it was not the most exciting game in the world to watch, Nick.
See, at least they moved the football. That's it wasn't a punt fest, which to me can be a suffer ball. Though, you know, that's only 11 drives in the whole game, and even one of them by the Raiders was a throwaway, so you could say it's 10. I mean, it was a really odd game. Broncos haven't had a game with only 6 drives. Excuse me, was it 6 drives, or they only had 5? No, 6 drives since 2000. So I mean, just like a complete weird game there with that, and that's why one reason, like, oh my gosh, they only scored 16 points again. Why are the advanced stats all saying the Broncos are, have an okay offense? Like
Because their
EPA
points per drive were up 50% over last year.
I mean, they were close to the best in the NFL. If you had that rate carried over the entire season, but like EPA per play, they came out as the 8th best offense from week 1 because of the efficiency, and the lack of explosives and one game sample size, kind of like you were just talking about, Scott. It's just one game here. We can change a lot over that, but interesting to see. I'm worried about it. You mentioned one guy that needs to step up, one guy that has to step up, Scott. That's not where my mind went when you started talking about it. For me, watching the game, the guy that he has to step up here is Zach Allen. I mean, you brought him in with Vance Joseph. He was the guy they targeted. I mean, even apparently in Vance Joseph's interview, they're like, okay, we're going to bring Zach Allen with. That's like the guy that we're targeting in free agency. Other than the tackle for loss, I mean, I didn't notice him out there at all. Like last year, when you had an interior pass rusher and Draymond Jones, there was at least, 2 or 3 plays a game where he, ghosts his guard in a one-on-one and then is able to get back into the backfield and create pressure. Not only sacks, but pressure. I didn't feel Allen's presence at all, other than that interior, that tackle for loss, which was a great play. Don't get me wrong, but I need more of that from Allen if you're paying him to be that guy.
I feel like, though, sometimes, that position, that 3-man front, his job is to almost not be noticed. Anything you get past that can be gravy, and then you've got to turn him loose. So did they hold up against the run? Yes, very well. Okay, then the 3-man interior linemen did their jobs. After that, you've got to free up the linebackers and free up the edges if I want a pass rush. I'm not overly concerned about a pass rush from my interior line. If you get one, great, but my 3-down linemen, and if I can, sneak in for a tackle for loss every now and then. So again, I feel like the front 3 did their jobs. I don't feel like the edges did. And I don't feel like Damari Mathis did. Mm-hmm. So can you get more? Yeah, because you're talking, money. Mm-hmm. We paid for this guy. We paid a premium for this guy to be more of an impact. Well, it's not hard to take an interior lineman out of the game as a defensive coordinator saying, I need you to do a job. And he did. He did a job.
I'm going to disagree just a little bit on this because the Broncos blitzed so much that he should have had one-on-one options. I think the Broncos had the 4th highest blitz rate in the league. And if I've learned anything from stopping a quick pass attack with pass rush, it has to come from the interior because there's too much distance to travel for those edge rushers. If you're working the 3-step drop, do it. So you need to have somebody winning on the interior, and didn't feel that at all from the pass rush from him. And that's not a star-struck interior offensive line for the Raiders. They look like a well-coached unit. I'll give them that, but not loaded with high draft picks or high contract players. So again, it's just somebody that, he was okay, especially in the run defense. All of them I thought were okay in the run defense department, more so the linebackers. But I want more from Zach Allen as well. If you're going to try to stop the quick pass game, somebody's got to step up on the interior. I don't know who it is, and it's probably got to be him.
No, I think we can get a lot more from a lot of players. Yeah. But for me, number 1 is far and away Randy Gregory.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know who you were going to say. I'm like, who's he going to say? I couldn't even think of who you were going to say. I'm like, maybe he's going to go offense, and I'm going to say, but I wasn't talking offense.
No.
So Zach Allen. I couldn't even think. Zach Allen was way down the list for me.
Yeah. And speaking of not way down on our list, Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate you always coming in with the stars. Keeping on the pass rush here, Scott. This is something that we talked a lot in the offseason, and it's too early, still a small sample size, but are we at all right to be skeptical? Are being proven right to be skeptical about the pass rush? I mean, all camp, all offseason, oh my gosh, the Broncos edge rushers are killing the offensive tackles. This pass rush is going to be good. Even Vance Joseph says that this is the best, group of pass rushers he's coached in a long time, and he had a team with, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. And they go out there and,
that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yeah. But they go out there and they get 3 quarterback hits, 4 pressures, and 0 sacks. Again, small denominator because there was not, I think the Raiders ran 51 plays or something like that in the 50s. But still, do you think that potentially our
Yes.
original concerns about
Yes.
the pass rush are
I think
true?
there's reason to be concerned about the pass rush. Yes, I do. It wasn't a great pass rush last year, and you're working with basically the same pass rushers.
Mhm.
If Drew Sanders isn't going to be on the field, that's one of the guys you're hoping could contribute. Alex Singleton has a really good nose for blitzing, but if I'm pinning my hopes on Alex Singleton being my pass rush force, I'm in trouble. Baron Browning can be good at it. He got to get him on the field. I feel like I've said it's so frustrating. I can't imagine as a content provider, y'all. I feel like trying to do analysis of this team is almost impossible. It's like, okay, we're going to talk about the keys, but none of them matter because no one can stay on the freaking field because they're always hurt. It's unbelievable, Nick.
Yeah. We sold our soul for that Super Bowl 50 and got that banner hanging behind me here. So I'll take 10 years of struggles for a ring. Those are hard to come by, but got to get out at some point. And saw things to be encouraged about in this Raiders game. It does suck to lose, but again, almost every single team that was above or around the Broncos in terms of Super Bowl odds lost this week in the AFC. It was a kind of a wild week one, which NFL, I mean, king of parity out there from a week to week basis. So Gary Palmer
trying
coming
to
in.
go undefeated. It's a 17 game season. You get the wild card that is Josh Allen out there. He's going to have a game where he just gives the ball away. I mean, more than one. He'll have a couple of them. You just hope it's not one that matters.
Yeah. So what a game last night, and what a contributor right here, Gary Palmer, $9.99. Thank you so much, Gary. We always appreciate you coming in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good Tuesday morning. Want to say hello to some more folks in here. Denver Luke, good morning to you. US Dave said more and more Broncos content. Feed me, feed me. Jeremy says, morning, fellas, on to Washington. Not quite yet, Jeremy. We're going to talk a little bit more still about the Raiders game. It's only Tuesday. We're still processing what happened and what it means for the Broncos. Isaiah Stacks, good morning, Broncos country. Dr. Van Nostrand saying good morning to y'all. Dave Glassman's in the house with the hearts. Good to see you, Dave. Kevin Gray, morning. Nick and Scott, big mile high salute to the Broncos country. Good to see you, Kevin. Dom is in the house, and good morning. Nick and Scott need to bounce back this week. Nick, how you feeling about Iowa? Iowa is in a good spot because the Big Ten West is absolutely terrible. So they're an okay team that because of their competition, I think have a chance to win the division. But we'll see. Ryan Thompson, good morning, fellas in Broncos country. Hope you're doing well. And Real Shid coming in saying we should have kept Alberto because we know Dulcich is known for the injuries. At this point, yeah, I think we got to say that Dulcich is becoming in Madden, he'd be one of those potentially get that injury prone label at this point. He missed, 5 games or to start the season last year with a hamstring. He missed the end of the last season with a hamstring. He worked this offseason to improve his hamstrings. He dealt with a hamstring in the offseason. And now here we are again. Hamstring injury for Greg Dulcich, the Broncos' only probably true receiving threat at tight end. And sounds like he's going to head to the short-term IR. Not official yet. Suffers a hamstring injury, probably on the short-term IR to create some space. So what a bummer for the Broncos and a team that wants to run a lot of 12 and 21 personnel.
If you're doing more than just resting and you're doing scans, MRIs on hamstrings, you got a problem. You're looking for tears. You're looking for damage. So yeah, short-term IR, hopefully 4 weeks. Could be more than that though.
Yep. And we got Tim Watkins coming in saying it's my birthday today. Well, let's keep next comment. No, I'm just kidding, Tim. Happy birthday, Tim. Everyone in the chat.
Good for you, Tim.
Yeah. Wow. Another trip around the sun. No.
Happy birthday. We're thankful you're spending it with us.
Yes,
happy birthday, my friend.
Absolutely. I'm just busting your chops, Tim. Everybody in the chat, make sure you wish Tim a happy birthday. We appreciate you hanging out with us, and I hope you have a great day. Michael Wilson, first time I've been able to catch this live. Watch all the time. Offense looked encouraging. Defense, not so much. Denver Broncos for life from Texas. Well, welcome in, Michael. We appreciate you catching us live. And, if you can't always catch us live, it's fine. That's a lot of people are like, oh, can't you do this show in the evenings too? It's mostly my mom. No, I'm just kidding. But that's we appreciate you. That's the great thing about the live stream and the podcast and everything, right? You can listen to it live. You can listen to it after the fact, but we do encourage you to listen live because then you can contribute to the chat and get your questions answered. So more people coming in. Dominique, good morning to you, Dom. Quentin's in the house. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you, Quentin. Hope you're doing well. You see Pearl Heaters in the house. Good morning to you, Pearl. Cristiano, good morning, dudes in Broncos country. Feeling a little bit better about the team today, but still very frustrated. There are 16 fan bases right now that are frustrated, some more than others. Broncos lost a
I'd
game.
say there's more than 16. There's people that bitch about a win too.
That's true. Yeah, and but then there's also fans that their team, they're just happy that they gave them a romp.
If you're not the Jets, Cowboys, Browns, you're probably frustrated about something right now.
Jets fans are very frustrated right now.
That's true, but they're pretty happy though with everything, and they're I won't say deluding themselves, but they've got false hopes about Zach Allen right now. I think maybe not. Okay, this is a new year. He's had Aaron Rodgers. He's got the quarterback whisperer. I'll tell you one thing though, Nick. We'll find out how good a quarterback coach and offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett is. We're going to find that out. I promise you.
I trade for Breece Hall in your fantasy leagues is what I can say. Man, he looked unbelievable out there and should be a good one. But good to see you, Cristiano. Hope you're doing well. The young Tyrone coming in saying Chris Harris and Bradley Roby being free agents. You think we should pick one up opposite Patrick Surtain? I think that Bradley Roby would be interesting. I think Chris Harris's son has set in the league. He's also a nickel guy, not a boundary guy. So I don't think he makes a lot of sense there for the Broncos. But Roby does make some sense. There's obviously some connection there between him and Vance Joseph. I think they did cross paths in Denver for at least one season. Could be two. So if Roby's out there, I would be at least interested. But not ace in the hole, but you have Riley Moss coming back. You traded up from the third round. He's supposed to fit this scheme better. The more off coverage, taking chances at the football. You're waiting to see what you have in Riley Moss first, I think, before you're making a move there.
And I think you can't carry two special teams guys like Tremon Smith and Fabian Moreau. If they're not going to contribute to the defense, then one needs to be inactive at the very least, for goodness sakes, Nick.
Yeah. It would be
I know I'm harping on this, but they bother me that they're on the team.
Yeah, no, that Smith special teams thing. I mean, I'm gonna lose my hair from special teams at some point in my life. But that was just, I can't believe that. And I think he's just gonna stick around because what was it, the $2.5 million pretty much all guaranteed? I mean, you're just burning money then if you move on from him. So
it's a strange contract, man.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, you look at his, you look up Tremon Smith ref, and you look at what he's done. It's like, okay, why? Who are you competing with that you needed that you needed this guy and you needed? I mean, I'm okay with trust your evaluation. We see a little more than something this guy, but who are you competing with that you needed to drop all that guaranteed money on to secure his services? I don't know.
Yeah, that's it'll be interesting for sure to see how it goes for Tremon Smith. I mean, it is a head-scratching one. The Frank Clark one also a little bit head-scratching considering what they paid compared to the output. But I thought he looked okay in that first game. So we'll see how it plays out for him for the rest of the year. Peter Middleton coming in saying, so Dulcich is getting more scans. Is he out for the season? I don't think he's going to be out for the season, but it's a hamstring, and that's very much a week-by-week thing. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was supposed to have suffered a moderate hamstring. Like if it was out of a scale of like 5, it sounds like it was going to be a 3.5 or something. And he might be back in week 2. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I would probably still play conservative with him considering your state of your roster already, but you're running out of bodies. So it's week 1. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be out for the season, but I think you probably won't see him again until, week 5, week 6 at the earliest.
Yeah, I agree. Again, and that's the key here. If he's getting MRIs, and that was what I heard when I was listening to Sean Payton after the fact. He mentioned plural MRIs. We'll have to wait for the MRIs. I'm like, uh-oh. I mean, we kind of expected that with Caden Sterns. Anytime you do a need, you take an MRI. It's preventative, or not preventative, but just precautionary. You'll do an MRI. Procedure. But with hamstrings, you don't always do MRIs on hamstrings. That's a little more severe. And what was the last hamstring that we had like this where I said I'd almost rather have a broken bone? Was it Ojemudia that ended up missing the whole damn season with a hamstring like that when he did one in preseason?
Until the last game of the year.
Hamstrings are voodoo, man. They really are.
Yeah, it does seem, I guess, encouraging. The Broncos have suffered a lot of injuries, but the rehab, the fact that Jerry Jeudy might already be back, I mean, I had written him off until, week 5, week 6, and we're talking about potentially week 2 from a hamstring. So hopefully there is something there with the new training staff that they can get him up and going, even if it is the short-term IR. But the thing that concerns me with the hamstrings and the soft tissue injuries in general is that they flare up so easily in the season. So because now he's already had one, same with Dulcich and Judy, it's like, 10 times more likely they're going to suffer another one this season. They just kind of add on top of each other. And once you get one, you're much more likely to get another. So worried about that for sure. But talking about Dulcich, first we got a super chat coming in from Donald Willison Jr., $12, saying I was given a choice between your podcast or HBO. It's not HBO anymore, right? It's X or whatever
Max.
the heck. Max. Yeah, X is Twitter. Everything changing brands when they have good brand names. I don't understand. But I'm glad you chose us, Donald. Hope you're doing well. And who needs HBO, right? There's a writer's strike. The content is always here. There's no writer's strike going on at Mile High Huddle.
You get 10 to 12 hours a week guaranteed at Mile High Huddle. So thank you for the support, Donald. We certainly appreciate you.
Yeah, really, really do appreciate that, Donald, coming in. Larry Archer coming in saying, any good pass rush available, and do you see us adding one? I think the only addition for pass rush you're probably going to have is Baron Browning, hopefully coming back healthy. It's pretty picked over at this point, and you need the guys in the room to step up. Randy Gregory, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Benito, Frank Clark, Zach Allen. Somebody's got to step up in that room out of those five and become a positive pass rusher. You're not going to get any, alpha, game wrecker types out of any of those guys. Most of them are complimentary, although I would say Gregory at least has the talent to potentially be that guy. But I think you're kind of where you're at with the talent in the room, unfortunately.
What's Randy Gregory's career high in sacks?
It's not a lot because he's been injured constantly.
4.
Yeah.
I think it's 4. Career high in sacks, he had 6. No, it is 6. He had 6 in 2018, and he had 6 in 2021. He played 12 games in 2021, and he played 14 games in 2018, and he had 6 sacks.
Yeah, it's probably still better as a complimentary guy to a dominant pass rusher on the other side, but I do think he is extremely talented. I mean, you watch the bend and the burst and the size and the length, but the stats don't lie when the sample size is that big.
Nick, we're talking about he'll be 31 in where it be September. He'll be 31 in 2 months. We're talking about a 31-year-old man who's got 7-8 years in the league.
Yeah. Probably are what your stats say you are at that point.
The old back of the baseball card thing. This is what you can count on.
Yep.
Well, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
And I don't know if it's unfortunate for the Broncos or not, but the only way you're going to get like a true difference maker in the pass rush department, unless you're willing to trade first-round picks, is using a first-round pick on a guy. And I don't know if it's the most dominant edge pass rushing class coming up here. Really good on offense, wide receivers, offensive tackles, quarterbacks. But the defense, not super impressed with any of them. I don't know if there's a single blue chipper in next year's class when I look at the class right now, but we'll see. But adding one, probably stuck with who you got this year. Somebody's got to step up. I mean, at some point, if the pass rush is that anemic, and some of it was game plan, but if it is that anemic, maybe you just kind of live with Benito's lack of size and struggles as an edge defender and pin the ears back and get after it, because he's probably your most twitchy, bendy, loose pass rusher you have, even if he has, limitations in strength department and setting the edge. You got to get after the quarterback better than you did this last week.
Lawrence Rivera coming in with some stars. He's liking what he sees out of Colorado right now. He says, I'm going to be honest, say that Sean Payton needs to be more of a leader by acting like Dion about his quarterback and his players. We're taking it personal because of the way the other team are treating us, and then playing people with personal feelings in the game. These are professionals, for one thing. And, I think they all take it fairly personally, Lawrence, when things are going badly. And as public as everything is with them, everything they do is under a microscope. And that's part of being a professional, is not necessarily to have your personal feelings go up and down, but you can watch Randy Gregory out there. He takes things pretty personal. That doesn't necessarily make him more effective. So, you ask yourself the question, these guys look like they're putting in the work or not? Do they look like they're putting in their best effort or not? If the answer is yes on those, and you're still okay, there's still things that need to be changed. The coach still has the team. When the coach loses the team, then you have a problem. A college is very, very different than professionals with long-term contracts. against guys that I can, cut and replace you year to year. It's a different style out there. And I think Sean Payton has done a good job. I don't think anybody's going to disagree that the team looked better than most of last season, but it wasn't good enough. There's still a lot of room for improvement out there.
Yeah, and also, Peyton is who he is, right, at this point. Like, if he comes in and starts, like, acting like Dion, that's not who he is, right? Like, you can't act like, Deion Sanders. There's only one, Prime, right? So
Be more of a leader. I don't think there's any question about who's in charge of this team. I don't think anybody has any doubts this year.
There was definitely some tight sphincters in the room watching the game again with Sean Payton this last week, without a doubt in my mind. He's an intimidating fellow. That's that Bill Parcells thing. He is intense and wants to win. So we'll see. And also, man, what a great story Colorado's been so far. They're probably going to put the absolute hurt on Colorado State. I feel bad for the Rams out there. Put all that money into that team in the Mountain West. But we'll see what happens. And the Pac-12 is going to be a lot of fun this year. I think Colorado, they ranked like 19 or something now. I mean, just rocketing up. It's pretty fun. And they're going to have some amazing matchups this year in the Pac-12. USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon State, Oregon. I mean, there is some, it's kind of sad because there are some really good teams in the Pac-12 this year and the last year of the Pac-12. But I digress. Colorado's going to be fun to follow. And I'm curious to see how they play in a ultra competitive Pac-12 going forward.
Nick, I think Larry Archer has an excellent question. Why do you think Drew Sanders wasn't more involved at all?
Yeah, I have an opinion on why. Because the linebackers were excellent on Sunday. As we talked about, the main thing was stopping the run. In preseason, the biggest concern with Sanders was the run fits and reading the runs and the instincts there. A few plays where, he gets his hips turned the wrong way and he's, out of position. And I thought the linebackers had a great day overall. I mean, Alex Singleton was fine. It was, watching that last play where Jimmy G's got that third down and Josie Jewell, just didn't have enough juice in the tank to catch up to him on that one. But because he already had the angle and Josie had to come from farther distance. But I don't think, what's Sanders doing here? Is he replacing one of your pass rushers? I don't think he's actually better than Benito, Cooper, or Gregory at this point. Is he filling in for Damari Mathis? No, duh. So I don't know where he's playing and replacing to make that much of a difference for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, you look at snap counts, and he wasn't coming. Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton didn't leave the field. Nick Benito got 15 snaps. Frank Clark only got 25 snaps. Jonathan Cooper got 38 snaps, and this was out a total of 59. So there was some rotation there, and I don't think you can necessarily just drop him in at edge. So maybe there would need to be a package in. I don't know. Why wasn't Sanders more involved? Because they didn't think he was going to be better than the inside linebackers that were out there, and they didn't drop him. They weren't going to drop him in at edge, and there wasn't a lot of edge snaps going around anyway, Nick. Which gets kind of back to are they running a 3 or are they running a 4? I feel like I saw a lot of 3-man fronts with a stand-up 4 all weekend, between the games I watched where it was really a 4-man front with a nickel with one edge as a stand-up defensive end.
Yeah. And also I think that while the Broncos did a good job of limiting the Raiders' explosive plays, they only had 1 tackle for loss the whole game. There was not a lot of 3rd and 8+ from the Raiders where it's an obvious blitz situation. Now the Broncos still blitzed a lot, but not where, it's like we're putting in an exotic looking front out there. So I don't know how many chances there were to really even get him out there when your 2 linebackers were playing as consistent as well as they were. I mean, they had an amazing game. Let's just call it as it is. It's not like Fred Warner out there, but they were pretty darn good. So we'll see if he can get worked out there a little bit more going forward. They might have to work out some more packages to get him in there if the pass rush is going to be struggle like it did against the Raiders. But I can't imagine how much of a difference he would have made given how the game played out and how well your linebackers played.
Yeah, and Fabian Moreau got on the field twice, going back to that question. Traymon Smith did not get on the field in coverage. He played 12 of the 15 special teams snaps. So, again, there's learning your best team also is part of it. But I think you want to see Drew Sanders out there before too long. Just as a even in pass rushing. So, do you need Josie Jewell out there on 3rd and 8? Or would you rather have Drew Sanders out there and say either go get that guy or go cover that guy?
Josie Jewell wears the green dot, so he's the main communicator. So I don't know how much that impacts the flow of information.
Yeah, and like you said that, but I've heard coaches very recently say that's overrated.
Yeah.
Is the green dot is because you've got guys at all levels calling out instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So in a pure passing situation, 3rd and 8 plus, which there might be a few, do you find a time to put a guy out there and just say, listen, keep it simple. There's not a whole lot going on here. I either want you to cover that dude in man, cover this space and zone, or line up over here and go get the quarterback. That's it. That's it.
The covering space and zone is a little bit more complicated.
I know, but I'm oversimplifying, of course, but it's going to become a question that we need to have.
Yeah.
Where are you more beneficial having the more athletic guy on the field in very specific situations, which there are 6 to 10 a game, possibly.
Yeah.
Which are game changers, Nick.
Yeah, and I have no doubt they'll work him in eventually. I just don't think in this situation it really played itself out. I mean, again, the very low snap count being available, not a lot of 3rd and 10s out there for the Raiders because the Broncos were not getting tackles for losses or sacks. So the Raiders were never really truly behind the chains, even though they were struggling to get explosive plays. So it was a weird one, such a weird game on Sunday, and it comes down to bleeping special teams. But the injuries, talking about the injuries, we talked about Dulcich having the hamstring injury again and getting an MRI. Now the Broncos are honestly without any weapons that I trust or love at the tight end position. You have Chris Manhurts, who I think also maybe was dinged up in the game, if I recall correctly, but he should be fine. Yeah. I might be mistaken on that one, but he was okay. Adam Troutman, man, he's a solid player, but there's absolutely no playmaking ability to him. It's kind of like he runs like Frankenstein once he gets to the ball, and timber, you go to his ankle and he's going to make that first guy is going to get him down. So that's unfortunate. And I guess now you have Nate Atkins as well will be part of the package. He's a little bit more of an H-back tight end type, but Broncos are pretty thin at the tight end spot in terms of playmakers.
Yeah, and Atkins was an offensive lineman in high school. He didn't start playing tight end until college. That's why he's a good blocker. Well, okay, I don't care how good your blockers are if I can't extend the defense even a little bit down the field. Running into an 11-man front is impossible at this level. I don't care how good your blockers are. So, yes, you need to get some of the speed in there. I don't know that it's coming from the tight end spot. It doesn't have to, though. You could just need a threat out there that can go around, get past the sticks, and turn around and catch a ball. That's pretty valuable. But I need Jerry Jeudy, I need Mims, I need Sutton, and those guys have to be much more of a factor than they've been for one reason or another, whether it's pass protection, whether it's Russell Wilson not seeing the field, whether it's they're behind the stick, whatever. But the downfield passing game is going to have to become more of a factor if this team's going anywhere.
Yeah, and the Raiders are playing such soft coverages that they just needed somebody to create something, make a guy miss. I mean, credit to the Raiders because they were super sound in their tackling and in their lanes as well. I can't even think of many first guy miss created explosive plays. I mean, you talk about the explosives. You can be explosive in a horizontal pass game. We see it all the time from the Kyle Shanahan offenses, but they have their Debos, they have their Brandon Ayuks, they got their George Kittles. Those guys.
Oh, and the guy named Christian McCaffrey.
And McCaffrey, yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, him.
I guess he's still kind of such a new 49er to me that I have a hard time picturing him out there. But
I just remember him going for 65.
Yeah.
For a touchdown on Sunday. So I've got that one fresh in my mind. No, you can go horizontal for sure, but you still have to have the threat of going vertical first before you can go side to side.
It depends on what the defense is doing.
The defense is going to stack you wide up close if you have no threat of getting behind them.
Yeah. I think on Sunday, though, from what I saw, they played super conservative off coverage, almost consistently cover 2, cover 4, cover 6 looks. And Broncos weren't able to do anything to make them pay with that. They weren't explosive enough from the run game and the short pass game to make the Raiders get out of that.
Yeah,
which
it
is
should be.
unfortunate.
Again, I don't need a 4-5 tight end. If my tight ends don't break tackles and they're not all that dynamic, okay, well, what do you have? You got size, okay? So at least get past the sticks before you catch a ball.
Mhm.
There's simple adjustment. I know this sounds, really easy, but instead of catch and run, a little button hook at 8 when you've got 3rd and 7, and then just box out. There's the ball has to go vertical in this offense right now. Nobody's respecting your speed and side to side, and for good reason. It's not like they're screening this team to death. What was it last night? We saw a pretty good screenplay. That was like,
Mhm.
now that's a screenplay. It was like a backside screenplay.
Yeah.
I think it was the Jets that ran it. Went for like 60 down the field. I'm like, now that's a screenplay. You don't have the lineman to do that. So you've got to figure out different ways to do it. Whether it's getting one of those big blocking tight ends, pushing out wide, and bringing in an inside screen. But I don't know. You've got to. You can't go side to side until you've proven you can go vertical, and that could be Nick running 6-7 yards of carry right at people too.
Yeah. And Broncos, need to make their plays when there are explosives available. Philip Dorsett. But what do the Broncos do, in my opinion, to help, get over the loss of Greg Dulcich for whatever time period that is? I think you're going to see a lot more Brandon Johnson in the slot. I think he is a big slot option for this team. I think he looked pretty good in that game. In my opinion, he ran some good routes, and he's got some size and physicality to him. He's a good wide receiver and elevated beyond that with the injuries right now. So I think you're probably going to see more Brandon Johnson in the areas where you would see Greg Dulcich make plays. And I also expect to see the running backs even more targeted in the pass game. We saw some good things from them on Sunday, both P. Ryan and Javonte Williams. Hopefully he can figure out how to get some space with Jaleel McLaughlin as well. He didn't look amazing in this game, but those are the areas I would expect the Broncos to target to help, soften the loss of Dulcich for whatever time period that is.
Lawrence comes in, he asks with some stars on Facebook, so do you think the Broncos shot themselves in the foot this year by getting rid of tight ends and our kicker? He says they literally created their own holes. What do you think, Nick?
I don't know if they shot themselves in the foot, so to speak. You were dependent on Dulcich just from a roster numbers perspective, so there was going to be a math issue with Albert Okwuegbunam. Would it have been nice to keep him and try to sneak Atkins on the practice squad? Yes, but it seems like Sean Payton really likes Atkins, and it's a Sean Payton's team, so he's going to get who he wants out there. So that's one as well. The Brandon McManus one, he was making probably more money than he was worth, although what was he, 5 for 5 in that Jags-Colts game? But all of this comes back to Sean Payton. And if you want to question Sean Payton's decisions on the roster building and whatnot, then go for it. I mean, he's the guy in charge right now. I know he's not the general manager, but let's be real. Who's the one in charge? So Will Lutz coming in, that's a Sean Payton thing. Albert Okwuegbunam out and Nate Atkins on the roster, that's a Sean Payton thing. If you want to be upset at him, then go for it.
Getting rid of McManus at $4 million or so, is that a big deal to me? No, that one, who they went and replaced him with were all head scratchers to me. Like, okay, Elliott Fry. Elliott Fry's a practice squad guy. He's been a practice squad guy his whole career. Will Lutz is coming off of a very public problem, and it's all mental with kickers. There's a zillion guys out there that can hit it 50 yards, and it's so mental, and that's a big question mark when he goes out there. And then to bring in, I'm sorry, not Will Lutz, but Mar. Then Will Lutz comes in. He's coming off the worst season of his career in an injury. Mm-hmm. So those are all questionable. Is it questionable that you get rid of McManus? And getting rid of tight ends, you let go of Albert Okwuegbunam, who hadn't shown anything in 3 years. No, that's understandable. So 550 yards in 3 years, not a single special team snap in 3 years from a 4th-round pick who was a third tight end. No. And do you know where he played this weekend, Nick? Inactive. Albert Okwuegbunam played inactive. So what are you really missing there? You're missing what you think he could be, but you've been missing that for 3 years. No, it's not the guys you miss. It's the guys you bring in that can't play. And the injuries are taking some of those away. Too much of the same is taking that away. Nick, when we talk about the tight ends, don't you have the same 3 guys out there? Manhertz, Trotman, and Atkins. How much different are those guys from one another?
I mean, I'm a tight end lover, so I would say that they're all different, so to speak. But you
Okay,
don't
to the
have,
layman, they're pretty. Their main skill is still blocking. They're still brought in to be good blockers. It's still fairly similar.
yeah, none of them are dynamic space players, which I think is what we're going for here with that. But Manhurts is your classic inline extension of the offensive line. Troutman's a little bit of both, and then Atkins is more of an H back move piece. I think there's a good chance he could be replacing Michael Burton this time next year, more of the fullback type. But I digress. Larry Archer coming in, $5. Thank you so much, Larry. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for contributing to the show. I also see Naj is coming back in here, 1999, saying we need speed badly. Is there any chance we bring back Hamler? Is there any update on his status? I haven't heard anything on Hamler. I am just hoping that he is okay mentally and getting healthy with his life because he's had some mental health issues. Really tough coming back from the injuries, the passing of his grandma. I mean, there was interviews where we talked about, taking his own life. So I don't know what's going on with Hamler, but I'm sending him all of the good vibes I can possibly muster and hope he is doing well. Football doesn't matter compared to that stuff. So I have no idea what's going on there, but I hope he's okay.
Yeah, and I don't either. And again, we just got done talking about Albert Okwuegbunam, and it's more of the what you hope he could become rather than revisionist history of what he actually was. KJ Hamler started 6 games in 3 years, played in 23 out of a possible 50 games, and had 600 yards of receiving. This isn't a guy you could count on out there.
No.
If you're looking for just someone who can run a fast 40, there's other options out there. So again, KJ Hamler's not he's not the answer. Hasn't been the answer for years. Albert Okwuegbunam, same thing. The answers for this team are going to have to come internally. Part of that's getting healthy, but there's no magic bullet out there that's going to come fix something that you can pick off the waiver wire or someone else's practice squad or make a trade. And it's going to be about getting healthy and improving week to week, y'all. Nash, love you, dude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the only spot that I think you might be able to find somebody in the waiver wire that could come in and make a big difference is running back. Other than that, though, I can't think of a position where you really get that so much in a singular season just because the demand for the position and the intricacy of the play designs and whatnot that, running back can come in, they can figure it out. Quarterback, cornerback, I mean, it's a lot harder for them. Speaking of cornerbacks, let's talk a little bit about the secondary. Caden Sterns suffers a significant knee injury. Sounds like it's going to sideline him for the rest of the year. Talking about another injury here and also support coming in. Keith saying, Nick and Scott, never let the mic drop. Appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Keith. Always appreciate you coming in with that unbelievably majestic beard in that profile picture. I got to say, it's a great look. I am very jealous.
Oh, this is like 2 days of growth for me. This is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, this is the Babyface podcast without a doubt. But yeah, thank you so much, Keith. Talking about the secondary though, Caden Sterns suffered a significant injury. You feel for him. It was a blitz. They sent him in. He didn't make the play in the backfield. I think it was against the running back and goes down, leg buckles, carted off the field, tosses his helmet. I mean, fighting back tears. He knows what's going on. It sounds like it's a significant knee injury, probably going to cost him the year. Another guy that, just Broncos, I think, have drafted talent well, but the amount of injured players they've drafted the last few years, it might be the nail in the coffin for George Paton. We're getting ahead of ourselves there, but another guy that had injury questions coming in, fell to the 5th round, and has been pretty much nothing but injured and potential for the Broncos in his 3 years here. Heart goes out to him. He was going to have a big role this year. Simmons was excited about him. Vance Joseph was excited about him. Broncos country was excited about him. We're not going to find out this year.
Yeah, it's tough. You mentioned you get after guys that are healthy or that aren't healthy, and then wonder why they aren't healthy. And we go back to the summertime where we're like, can you really pencil in Caden Sterns as this plus safety? No, you can't right now. You can't count on that. I mean, we want to hack on Kareem Jackson all along, but you can trust to put him in the game. I mean, at this point, who can you trust to put out there to play 60 snaps? There's not a lot of them out there. And that's got to be unbelievably frustrating. I'm getting frustrated just talking about it. It's got to be unbelievably frustrating for Broncos fans.
And for Sterns as well. I mean, sounds like somebody, expecting good things from him this year. They were excited to use a lot of 3 safety looks, and they did use a good amount before he went down. Again, super small sample size, but it's a rough look for the Broncos and for Sterns. Going to be without him. Thank God, I guess they brought back Kareem Jackson. As you mentioned, slower player, not good in coverage. I mean, he's going to be targeted and isolated by pass games all season long because he just can't close space in the pass game like he used to be able to when he played cornerback, especially. But he's out there, he's healthy, and he brings some tenacity to the team. So hopefully he can hold up, and we'll get back to it. I want to talk a little bit more about the potential ramifications of a Caden Sterns injury and what the safety position could look like for solutions there. But first, Jay Roper coming in saying, if you go 0-2, the Broncos go 0-2, what do you think the front office starts to think? Do you keep pushing, or do you start making calls for a potential teardown? I'm interested because 1-6 can happen fast.
Real quick, Nick, we've got 10 minutes left and you want to get into safeties. This might be a good topic for Thursday.
I want to talk about the Washington
This is a
game.
conversation right here.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. So let's, Jay will probably push this one to Thursday because this becomes a conversation. It's like, okay, you start thinking of, it's like, okay, let's start thinking for 2024. One, people in the building don't typically think like that. Two, if you do think like that, where's the upside? Where's the upside of the players? We mentioned Drew Sanders. Okay, well, Drew Sanders starts. He's in. I'm putting him in over Josie Jewell, who won't be here next year. He's getting older, coming off a contract.
You're trading.
That's a whole conversation
that
we can have on what's the upside of, besides the draft pick, obviously, of I need to bank on young players. That's why you would do this. I need my young players to get more experience. I want to have that conversation on Thursday.
Well, definitely remind me on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. But what is the front office thinking after an 0-2 start? Oh, bleep, our jobs. That's what they're thinking if they start 0-2 in the front office specifically. Because it'll be I can't think of who the assistant general manager is to Mickey Loomis there in the Saints, but there was, Jeff Ireland. That's the name to keep in the front of your mind there if things start to fall apart here in Denver this year for the front office. But Sterns, the safety, is going to be out for the year. Luckily for the Broncos, you should have PJ Locke coming back soon. He played pretty well in a small sample size last year. He doesn't bring the athleticism or the box ability or just, the overall ability that Sterns has. But Locke is a pretty good backup safety. You maybe will not see as much safety 3 looks. So keep an eye out for him. Maybe this opens up a chance for Jalarian Turner-Yell or not PJ Locke, JL Skinner for some more box looks on those 3 safety looks as well. But the one who sticks out to me here, who has a chance to continue to show out, and if plays so well, you might have to find a spot for him still. The dark horse here for me in the safety spot is Essang Bassey. Essang Bassey had a pretty darn good game against the Raiders overall. Hunter Renfrow, who has just had some unbelievable games in the league from the slot. I think he had 0 catches this week in the Raiders. I don't remember him even being out there really. So Bassey, a lot of credit for that from the slot. And we saw in preseason, Bassey started to get some safety looks out there as well. So this is obviously after Quan Williams comes back kind of discussion here. Could be, week 8 or something like that. But keep an eye out for Bassey. If he continues to play well, I think there could be a reason or a way for it to keep him on the field with 6 defensive back looks and him getting a little bit more safety looks.
If he stays healthy, he's going to be on the field.
That's true. However, he's pure slot. So
I'm teasing though. But Riley Moss is versatile. If he can get out there, Essang Bassey, he's making plays. I want to find a way to get my best players on the field, and he's playing well. Some news coming in. Adam Schefter reports Broncos tight end Greg Dulcich is expected to be sidelined multiple weeks after injuring the same hamstring that caused him to miss Denver's first 5 games last season, and then the last 2 games at the end as well. Per source, Broncos will take it slow.
So no information there about the short-term IR. The issue with the short-term IR is that you can only pull, I think it's 6 guys off of it.
Yeah, indefinitely means at least IR, at least short-term IR.
Okay, so we'll wait for that move to happen. That'll free up a roster spot for the Broncos. They're going to have to figure out how way to create some plays over the middle of the field. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Russell Wilson's heat map. He still, everything was peppered around the line of scrimmage on the sidelines, so probably even less over the middle of the field now, but it was efficient, I guess. Not
explosive. Did you see Anthony Richardson's heat map, speaking of which?
Yes, I did. To
It
the
looked like
right.
a
To
pitcher
the
that
right.
wanted to. It looked like a pitcher that wanted to work inside to right-handed hitters.
It looked like Mitchell Trubisky. That was a guy who refused to throw to the left. But yeah, that's interesting. And Jay says, I wonder what Albert O is doing. He is inactive
Yep.
on a healthy scratch
He
on the
was he
Eagles.
was inactive for the, and that's not a total surprise. He just got there,
No.
but he was inactive for the. I want to say Eagles. Was it Patriots because they played each other?
Yeah, Eagle. He's for the Eagles.
Eagles. Yeah, Eagles. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
but they played the Pats. Yep.
yeah. So I'm like,
So,
he's one on the Patriots. He's on the Eagles, right? Yeah, Eagles.
yep. So going to be interesting to see what happened there. And Tracy says Russell Wilson had several throws over the middle. What? I'll have to pull it up for you, but I think it was like 4 throws in between the hashes. It was not a lot.
Out of
But I
34, was it 34 throws?
yeah, it was. I mean, you can just. I don't like somebody on Twitter yesterday said, oh, how could you say the Broncos offense was 8th best? I'm like, I'm not saying it. This is an EPA per play chart. I'm just reading what the data is. Like it's don't come at me. But that's here it is. So it's just the data on that one. But
The thing is, though, Nick, is they were complicit in a lack of possessions because they weren't scoring quickly. If you have
yeah,
an 8-play, 9-play, 8-minute scoring drive, there's not going to be a lot of possessions. So it was both of them, not just one of them.
yeah. With it'll be interesting to follow. I mean, how dare you look at the data, Nick? Data lies too. This is the thing I think people don't appreciate as enough. Data is, as I like to say on here for football, because it's such an intricate game. Data is only a piece of the puzzle. You have to marry a bunch of the different data to educated, knowledgeable film study, and then you can have yourself a chance to paint the best picture possible. You're never going to have a perfect picture because you don't have all the facts.
Yeah,
But
you've gotta. I think data is good to point out. Okay, look at this, and then you also then use data to verify what you're seeing. You've got to put eyes on stuff. You can't just go, this isn't baseball. Baseball's pretty statistical.
yes,
It's 162 games, 600 at bats, that type of stuff. You can use those pretty well.
yeah. Also, it's a much more controlled environment. But yeah, here's the spray chart here. How many between the hash marks? I mean, truly between the
How
hash.
many between the numbers?
That's
7
yeah,
between the numbers.
yeah.
I'd say 7 out of 34 between the numbers means you're not throwing the ball over the middle too much.
Yeah, again, it's just the
Yeah,
data.
that's not a hot take.
Yeah. So I digress. Check the receipts, right? That's what you do.
My question on that then would be, well, what's average? If it's 7 of 37, let's call it 1 out of 5. 1 out of every 5 throws is within college hash marks. What's average? I mean, how many people are throwing it over the middle? What's that compare to? That's the part I don't know.
It depends on the quarterback and the scheme. You look
Right,
like
but
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Is this an outlier where he's throwing it so much less over the middle than other teams?
He is typically. You can look at heat maps throughout
Mhm.
years, but he's him and Kyler Murray are two that really don't use the middle of the field that much, and especially a lot of the middle of the field targets from Russ are extended play ones where he's escaped the pocket and then throwing back to the middle. So it's not even a true drop back quick pass game middle. But I digress. Coach Chris coming in $20 saying there were so many things wrong from play calling, but I will say that I saw our defense was soft, no pressure, defensive backs playing way too much zone, giving 10 to 15 yard cushion. We also didn't get down the field with the ball. A lot to work on in this game.
Coach Chris just got here.
Yep.
Welcome in.
Yeah.
Welcome in. We agree with you 100%. Coach Chris. It was bend but don't break. Don't give up the big play. And then not making any big plays, not loosening up the back end of the other team's defense. And it was ultra conservative. It really was. It almost felt like a preseason game to a certain extent.
I mean, the Broncos had the 4th highest blitz rate in the NFL this week. Would you consider that ultra conservative? Now, I do think they were conservative in their coverage, so to speak, a tad, but I don't think
Are you marrying a press coverage with a blitz?
I don't know if they trust Mathis and then Kareem Jackson on the back end to be that. And this is the thing too, and this is a whole nother episode we could have, but people are already ready to, run Vance Joseph out of town. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what more he could have done really when your cornerback 2 is giving up 8 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns and only forcing like 1 incompletion or whatever that number was. And I don't know what you do if you're getting all these one-on-one matchups with your pass rushers because you're blitzing so much and you're still not getting home. Now, you took a step back from Ejiro Evero, but I think this is more of a talent issue on the Broncos defense than it is coaching. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to follow this season, but I am not ready to say that Vance Joseph is, the worst hire of the offseason and terrible, because what I saw was players not getting it done.
Well, and again, I'm not going to make any. If I watched the Bills for the first time, or I watched Joe Burrow for the first time,
Yeah,
what am I thinking of Burrow and Josh Allen? Okay, it was one game.
Yeah.
We said over the summer, week 4 or 5, then we'll have a much better idea where this team is. I have no idea where the team is in the preseason, none, because it's in preseason games. You're evaluating players, you're not evaluating the team. And then in going against each other in training camp, I don't know if my offensive tackles are bad or my edges are great. I don't know if my receivers are really doing well. I don't know what's being called, what we're trying to get out of it. I don't know anything. I can get an idea of individuals, but as far as the team goes, and this is the greatest team-based sport there is, I don't really know for a month.
Yeah. Data and different teams that you're playing against too, and just heck, I'd say 6 to 8 weeks, Scott. That's why.
Yeah,
we'll see how it plays out.
But and then there's improvement. There's
Yeah.
a team in the second half could be very different than the first half. And the schedule's long enough. If you can eke out a couple of wins in the first half and then go 7-2 in the second half, you can make the playoffs and do some damage. Chris, certainly appreciate you. It's been a while, so welcome in, and welcome back, Naj. Coming in again today. Thank you, Naj. Says, makes me sick even saying this, but if we were 0-6, 0-7, do you see Russ being benched?
I think it's possible if you're 0-6 and 0-7 because of the way his contract is set up. If you're 0-6 and 0-7, you might be having a conversation with yourself where we are trying to race to get to one of the top 2 picks to get one of Drake May or Caleb Williams. And that would be a long-term decision. If you're not getting those guys, I mean, you got a chance at, Marvin Mims Jr. or Olu Fashanu, who are super, super prospects at wide receiver and offensive tackle as well. So I think it's possible. And that you talk about a complete rebuild, you're protecting yourself from the injury guaranteed kicking in from Wilson at that point, this is the darkest timeline. Not likely to happen, but we're at the part of, projecting right now.
This game changed my outlook on the season because this was the one that you should have won. Yeah, you have to win. We say must win in week 2. I mean, yes, you can turn it around. I just said that, blah, blah, blah. But by God, you got to beat the Commanders at home.
We're talking probability, Scott, right? The season's not over, but your probability of being a team starting 0-2 with 2
They're not even just starting 0-2. If you started the season against Kansas City and the Dolphins, which are games coming up, and you're 0-2, all right. I get it. You're big underdogs in those games, but you're favored at home against the Raiders. You should be a big favorite at home against the Commanders. The Commanders are terrible, man.
Yeah, they didn't look great on offense for sure.
So this is a must win. Then we can start talking about 0-6, 0-7 if you don't beat the freaking Commanders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Naj. Appreciate it. And Coach Chris coming in. Final thing, Scott, before we get on out of here, talking still injuries. Riley Moss could be back this week. We saw Damari Mathis get absolutely picked on in this last game. I'm hoping that we do see a bounce back from him. I'm not sure if the soft zone kind of scheme there where he's supposed to react and come downhill is as good of a fit for him compared to the press physical stuff.
He needs to be aggressive.
So he was drafted for a previous regime, and Broncos traded up to go get Riley Moss, who played a lot of off zone matchup zone coverage at Iowa. So curious to see if Moss gets out there. Maybe that's somebody that we should watch out for. If Mathis struggles again and Moss isn't ready, maybe they'd even take a chance on Jaquan McMillan. But Mathis, I mean, he feels terrible, no doubt, but he's probably the biggest GOAT of this game, in my opinion. Lutz is getting a lot of, shame right now, but Mathis, I mean, they just targeted him over and over again, and he couldn't stop anybody. So that's the one.
Again, I'd say it'd be nice if your 8-figure edge could have done something besides get in on an assist, and then maybe you wouldn't have had Mathis in 1v1s out on an island quite as often. Yeah. But yeah, Mathis bounced back really well last year from a poor game. So we've seen that he's got it in him. We've seen that he's better than this. If this was Fabian Moreau out there and he got cooked, I would have said, I told you guys he can't play. Mathis can play. We've seen it. We know he can play. He can be better than this.
Yeah.
So let's step up. They got to get some pressure on the quarterback, though. Have to. If
Yep.
you got to pressure Sam Howell. Sam Howell, put some pressure on him. You worried about him, dissecting your blitz, your man coverage? Man, put some pressure on the dude.
Yeah.
And then we'll get it, Nick. Then we'll get a pretty good idea just how conservative this defense is going to be in their coverages.
Yep. And how the pass rush looks as well. So yeah, Sam Howell is going to look to hang on to the ball and make some plays and be a thick boy like he likes to be out there. Same at UNC. Michael coming in saying good morning, Nick and Scott. Broncos for breakfast and Buckham. I don't know if we already got this one or if it's a circle back.
Yeah, he said that was. I meant to say. I thought I start as goodbye. Because and I didn't. So that was the hello. We just need an aloha, and
there you go.
That's the one I meant to do. Michael comes in so often I get him confused. So aloha to Michael Ranquillo. He says, great show today. Thank you, sir. Go Broncos. Appreciate all the support you give to all of the shows and all of the hosts and host folks on Mile High Huddle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. Scott, we're at an hour. We got to wrap it up. Last thing, Jerry Jeudy almost sounded like he could have maybe gone this last week. They're playing it conservative with him. Do you have any, we're going to find out more today about what he's on the injury list and everything like that. Do you have any projection for him or any thoughts on Jerry Jeudy's return for the Broncos potentially this week?
I mean, it changes the way the game is played, obviously. So you can't just say, in a vacuum that this would have been the difference because, maybe it changes how the Raiders are attacking at the end of the halves, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But does Jerry Jeudy make a 1-point difference to this Denver Broncos team? Yes, he does. He does.
You talk about the taking advantage of yak opportunities in the short pass game. You get him the ball and nobody made anybody miss in this game other than the running backs, and he could do that. My concern with him again is the hamstring. Long-term for him, what does that mean? And I know it's a double-edged sword on this one. He is from Miami. I know that he's got this game circled coming up week 3 when the Broncos head to Miami. I think he's really trying to get out there to play that game. I'm almost wondering if it'd be better to be safe with him and hold him out because he tries too hard in that one and puts himself at risk. It's a tough one.
Put him at week 4. I mean,
yeah.
Are you gonna beat the Dolphins with Jerry Jeudy? No,
it's possible. It's possible.
Everything's possible.
Yeah,
but a healthy Jerry Jeudy, you might be a 6.5-point underdog instead of an 8-point underdog. That is going to be a long shot game. Are you better off if he's not good for this one? Are you better off, to your point, holding him out just one more? Maybe. Hopefully, he's 100% this weekend, and it's not a conversation anymore.
Yeah, we'll get to the Dolphins at some point, but the Chargers had one of the most efficient rushing games in the history of the NFL. I think top 5 in rush success. And the Broncos are probably going to try to do against a Vic Fangio defense over and over. Pound that rock, baby, for those at home. So hopefully we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, the Dolphins team looked explosive. We'll see what they look like against the Broncos, and we'll see what the Broncos look like against Commanders. We're running along. A lot to talk about today. A lot of different possibilities. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe to Mile High Huddle over on YouTube, like the show, and share it on your social media platforms. Would do us a heck of a lot of good. Thanks to everybody who came in and supported the show today. Troy Bauer got us started off. Michael Ronquillo came in twice. Gary Palmer, Donald Willison choosing us over HBO. God bless you. Lawrence Rivera, thank you so much. Larry Archer, Naj came in twice. Keith Brugman, Coach Chris. You guys are all killing it today and keeping the lights on for us as well at Mile High Huddle. We appreciate the heck out of you. Scott, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, looking forward to Thursday. We'll start taking a peek at the Commanders and how to attack them, and hopefully we'll get some more injury news, healthy news. I don't even call it injury. We'll get some more getting healthy news from the Denver Broncos.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate everybody. Have a great one. I will be gone the rest of the week as I will be down in California for the first time in my life and attempting to climb Half Dome. Won the lottery for that one. So out there in Yosemite National Park should be a lot of fun. Tackling that one alone. So wish me luck because the pregnant wife is not going to be climbing up the Half Dome with me. So probably smart on that one. But yeah, you guys have a great one. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.